Good evening. Taffy Patten, Chair of the Residents Coalition. You have great power and therefore great responsibility to ensure that developments contribute to our city's beauty, harmony, taste, and spaciousness. Sadly, this development does none of these things. In fact, rather than being a minor modification, the latest proposal is significantly different than the proposed DA. City Council and the Rent Control Board approved 51 affordable units. The remaining 38 units may be the bare legal minimum. However, these units are pushed to the very end of the site. This doesn't constitute equal distribution, much less social equality. The project is 57 feet high in Colorado, 57 feet adjacent to 1- and 2-story homes. Colors and porous buildings won't keep existing neighbors from feeling overwhelmed by looming structures that block sky. In New York City, pale kids play in dark alleys. Santa Monica kids deserve much better. Long covered courtyards, shadowed playgrounds aren't open space. In this project, open space, landscaping, and sunlight have been dramatically reduced, and affordable units have been minimized and hidden. This development is a major modification of a DA. It does not contribute to our city's reputation of spaciousness and beauty, and it should not be approved. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Denise Barton, and then Catherine Eldridge.
Good evening. Tonight I have some concerns regarding this new project at the Village Trailer Park. My first concern is about the structural integrity of the buildings. Considering the property is so close to the southern branch of the Santa Monica Fault. I had provided 2 maps for you to view. The first is the Village Trailer Park's geological hazard map, with the southern branch of the Santa Monica Fault removed from the map. In comparison to the second map, the City of Santa Monica's geological hazard map, where the southern branch of the Santa Monica Fault runs quite close to the property. So which map is being used? Making my real concern be, are the buildings structurally safe enough? Are the specific seismic requirements being taken to ensure the building safety? Another point I'd like to bring to your attention is on the city's geological hazard map, you can clearly see that at least half of the property is at high risk of liquefaction. And again, please note how close the fault line is to the property. On that thought would be my next concern. And looking at the picture for this project, you see parts of the building being supported by poles in the ground, which looks quite similar to carports. And if carports were found to be unsafe in earthquakes, why would you allow part of a building to be constructed in this manner, especially so close to a fault line? Finally, in looking at this item's staff report on the internet, the only EIR mentioned was from 2007, which I find very interesting considering the last EIR for this property was approved in 2010 or 2012. I do hope you can understand my concerns, and please allow me to apologize for not being completely on topic. Thank you.
Thank you. Catherine Eldridge, and then our next speakers will be Ellen Hannon, Ron Goldman, and Mary Rushlfield.
I hope you got the handout. This is from me. I would like the documents I submitted to be added to the official record for this hearing. I believe the ARB acts as the final arbiter and gatekeepers of what Santa Monica will look like and be as a city. What they decide can change the city forever as its look, feel, and living experience. You have an obligation to the residents of Santa Monica to ensure that what is built will be harmonious with what exists. You protect neighborhoods, our investments, and our homes. I feel for you in this position tonight. Both the attorney and the planning staff will demand that you fulfill the City Council dictates as approved. To feel it is not the council's, I feel that it's not the council's determination that should decide your vote. After all, it is your name that authorizes this design and this project. city cannot compel you to vote for this oversized student warehouse. You are the ones who must choose yes, no, yes with conditions, or abstain. The choice is yours. Remember your mission statement, your purpose for being here on this board, and vote accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you. Ellen Hannon, and then Ron Goldman.
Hi, I'm Ellen Hannon. I'm on the board of Mid-City Neighbors, but I'm here for myself. Your meetings are at the same time as our meetings, so that's why we have not been here to follow along with this. And this is my first time seeing this, which is totally different from what was passed by the planners in the city, and I think it's a monstrosity of a building. I think it totally overbears Colorado especially, which borders Mid-City Neighbors. I'm very concerned about the commercial space, which at that point Colorado becomes a very small, narrow street. I don't know what type of commercial space is going in there, and I just think it's horrible, the whole structure of the front along Colorado. I want Colorado totally changed. I think the narrow corridors are horrible. I see a pool in there that may fit 8 people, and you have 365 units. That's totally inadequate. You need to put in proper recreational areas for the kids, the people, for everyone. All of these quiet sitting areas are a joke. I've lived in apartment buildings. I've lived in buildings that had rooftops. Nobody ever went up on the roof but me. I'm the only person who ever went out. I have a whole patio area in the condo I live in. Nobody goes out there. So these quiet areas are a joke. You really need things. If you're going to have families, you need spaces for kids to move around. They need to move their muscles. The neighborhood will not appreciate that commercial space. They won't use it. No one will be going there. I don't have no idea what they're putting in. I don't know where you're putting the trucks in to bring in whatever it is you're putting in. Your architects just totally ignore the really important things of building for a city. All they care about is how nice it's going to look, you know, in a way, their idea of what is appropriate for Santa Monica, which is not what is appropriate for the people who live in the neighborhood think. We were not consulted at all on this. And it would have been nice if the architects did make an effort to come out and meet with the neighborhood associations, but they don't bother. Let me see, what else do I have? That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Ron Goldman, and then Mary Rushlfield.
Can I ask for extra time?
I'm afraid not. We have so many speakers tonight.
Well, I have 4 chits following me, and they're willing to donate their time.
Staff, ask for their advice.
In reviewing the rules of order, there's no provision to donate time. However, by majority vote, this body can grant any public speaker additional time.
I propose we grant an extra 2 minutes.
Second that. Any other discussion on that? Board Member Griffin? No, okay. You seconded it, right? Yeah. So all in favor of that, an extra 2 minutes to Mr. Goldman?
Aye.
Any opposed? No, so you can have
Well,
4
if
minutes.
that's for the 4 chits, then I won't do it. They'll speak for themselves.
Okay. Then go ahead for 2 minutes.
Can you put up the next? Yes. My name is Ron Goldman, 1717 Montana. This first diagram illustrates the massiveness of the new design. There's nothing this massive in Santa Monica. This second diagram illustrates the upper 2 buildings, the blue and the red and the white, are only half as long as 2 of the buildings in this project. On the East Village, buildings A and B will be twice as long as what you're looking at in those upper 2 photos. This project is massive. And 44% of the open space is now covered, as the lower photo on the left suggests. This diagram, number one, shows your concerns, how your concerns and the Planning Commission's concerns could have been dealt with by just omitting 10 units and simply breaking the project into 4 buildings. That's simple. Number two shows more than 44% reduction in space that's open to the sky. Number three shows the setbacks that vary more than 20% from the code required setbacks and shadows covering neighbors across the street. Number four shows the massiveness of Building A compared to the previous design. Not only in length, but in height, 4 stories instead of 5. Number 5 shows the loss of the primary public open space at the intersection of the 2 public streets, which the Planning Commission specifically added as a community benefit and now is covered over by 4 stories of building. And number 6 compares the amount of usable space open to the sky. And if we could just leave this up, this 5th diagram spells out 9 substantially inferior design modifications that will be addressed by one of the later speakers.
Thank you very much. Mary Rushlfield?
Mary Rushlfield, before I begin speaking, I'm wondering if you might reconsider Mr. Goldman's request.
I'm sorry, no, if you could just proceed with your 2 minutes, that would be great. Thank you.
The board does itself a disservice because Mr. Goldman is a renowned architect, and this project merits words from his own words. The handouts are copies of sections 242, 243, and 244 of the development agreement, all of which need to be understood to come to a proper conclusion on whether the modifications are minor or major. The DA does not give the planning department the discretion to decide something is minor if in fact it exceeds any of the thresholds in subsections A through J of section 2.4.3. Notwithstanding, I quote, notwithstanding anything to the contrary herein, if the Director of Planning approves a minor modification, the developer shall not be required to obtain any other discretionary approvals for such modification, except for ARB approval in the case of certain major modifications. Since the major modifications are clearly defined, it is up to you, the ARB, to decide whether any of the defined thresholds are met, and if so, you must disapprove the modifications until the matter has gone back to the City Council for public hearing on an amendment to the DA as required by law. As we will show, the following thresholds are exceeded in the proposed modification, therefore you must send it back for amendment of the DA. I quote, section 2.4.3A, reduction of any setback of the project as depicted on the project plans, if by such reduction the applicable setback would be less than is permitted in the applicable zoning district under the zoning ordinance in effect on the date such modification is applied for by more than 20% of the dimension of such setback. The diagram you previously saw substantially exceeds that 20%. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next we have Jane Kohler, Mrs. Judith Sussex, and then Jasmin Diaz. Kohler, pardon me if I mispronounced your last name.
Good evening. I'm Jane W. Kohler. I live at 634 21st Street, and I'm here to represent the NOMA board in regard to Ron Goldman's letter of October 19th. We support his position, and so I will read a portion of that letter to you. Section 2.431. Any variation in the design massing or building configuration, including but not limited to floor area and building height that renders such aspects out of substantial compliance with the project after ARB approval. Section 2.43J. These are any change that would materially reduce the community benefits that's set forth in sections 2.6. 2.6 includes significant project features and loose community benefits. The fifth goal of the loose community benefits states, does the project adversely impact or enhance the current or future open space and community gathering space, end quote. And uncovered open space has been reduced by 44%, and the resulting width of courtyards are slot-like, canyons-like spaces with landscape and children's play areas in shadow, most, if not all, day. And the public outdoor park at the corner of New Road in Pennsylvania, specifically added by the Planning Commission, is now covered space with 4 stories of building above. Again, of the 5 priority categories of community benefits in the loose, number 3 is the community physical improvements, additional ground level open space and trees. Again, open space, landscape, and sunlight have all been reduced by 44%.
Thank you. Next we have Judith Sussex.
Hello, I'm from Woodbridge, Suffolk, England. I'm continuing in the same theme. And if you're still unable to decide if any of the modifications reach the threshold of being major, there is still the question of whether these 9 design modifications are substantial enough to not approve the project at this hearing. The purpose of the ARB is to preserve existing areas of natural beauty, cultural importance, and ensure that buildings, structures, signs, or other developments are in good taste, good design, harmonious with the surrounding developments, and in general contribute to the preservation of Santa Monica's reputation as a place of beauty, spaciousness, and quality. SMMC 9.32. To prevent the development of structures or uses likely to have a depreciating effect on the local environment or surrounding area. Code shall include, but not be limited to, consideration of the following elements: the integrity of neighborhood environments, the architectural relationship of adjoining neighborhood communities, general patterns and standards of architectural development within the entire district. Thank you.
Thank you. Jasmin Diaz, and then we have an additional speaker, Crystal Andersen.
You are charged with reviewing what the Planning Commission has approved. This is not what they approved. They have not reviewed these changes. This project has been totally redesigned. This redesigned project has not been before the Planning Commission or City Council. So it is up to you alone to determine that this redesigned project meets the LUCE standards and meets your standards. You have the right to say the height on Colorado, the open space inadequate, the revision to the main public space at the new street intersection is not acceptable. The increased length of buildings on the west and east not acceptable. Truly a travesty of both process and product. I and community would greatly appreciate your recognizing this and a minimum rework this design, or otherwise just don't approve and send it back to Planning Commission. And finally, let me remind you that each apartment needs to have a separate water meter, and the added space should not further reduce the already minimum area open to the sky. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Crystal Andersen?
I strongly support all the different things what previous speakers told, and especially all these 9 design modifications. There were children in the pictures, but where is their playground? Where can they play ball? Where can they swing? Where can they have a game with each other? There is no space. And yellow doesn't look like really playground with sunlight. There's so much shadows, and there's only so little space that a mother with her child, if a child starts to run, oh, be careful, you're going to go run into this, run into that. Yeah. There is no space for children. And the reduction of affordable units, yeah, that shouldn't go through. And also when we say we have a drought right now, 375 units at 24,940 square feet businesses take a lot of water. Developments like that, yeah, we are supposed to reduce our water usage by 20% so that developments like this can be built. You have to really think. We want to be, our footprint should be less than we have now. But a development like that with this massiveness, 5-story high, the people who lived behind it on Colorado, that were looking on a park-like space with mature trees, and now we will have to look at something like that. Mountains with windows and some yellow, yeah, just some yellow there. But not free air, not free sunlight.